Hey guys, this is Dr. Rudy, and I'm all the way in Dubai, but I'm doing a podcast because I met an extraordinary man. So I was at a wellness and longevity conference in Riyadh, and I came to Dubai to just get the feel of the city. And I met this guy that's an amazing guy from Australia, and I go and work out at his medical gym, and they have a medical practice, functional medical practice called EverWell. And the gym is called WellFit. When I'm walking, I meet this amazing guy, Jackson, right here. And then me and him start talking, and then we vibe so well that I'm like, you know what? We need to get together. Let's talk about all the conversations you were having. So I'm bringing this amazing Jackson all the way from Dubai, and we're going to talk about everything wellness, fitness, weight loss, GLP-1 medication, the psychology of weight loss, the psychology of greatness, and everything you can do to really help you live your best life. So Jackson, so glad we're here. Please tell everybody about you.
Thank you for having me. I mean, it was fantastic to meet. And as you said, in such a unique situation, literally as I'm training at the gym. So
you were doing legs. I remember that.
Training
Lots
legs.
of plates.
Yeah. And there's proof I do train legs. So quite fitting that we end up, meeting and discussing after meeting in the gym. So a bit about my background.
Yes.
I was a trained physiotherapist. That was my first degree, but I'd always been a PT. Mm-hmm. So I'd been PTing for about 5 or 6 years before doing a physio degree. And then I never really liked getting people back to normal. So someone does their knee or tears a hamstring and they just want to get back to doing what they were doing. What I really like is getting someone beyond normal, reaching new goals, breaking through barriers.
Optimization.
Yeah.
Optimize.
Exactly.
Be the best version of yourself, your best life.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And it doesn't just have to be in sports either. The person who wants to be able to perform better at work or perform better, play with their kids more often. So I ended up doing a master's in exercise science and I majored in strength and conditioning. So specifically looking at high performance. How can you get someone to perform at their absolute best across, speed, power, flexibility, strength, endurance, etc.
Can I take you to Miami?
I've never been to Miami, so absolutely.
And the accent is amazing. So where are you from?
From Melbourne in Australia.
Melbourne,
so the
in
very
Australia.
south of Australia. So
Amazing. So when I met Jackson, he was doing legs. I always talk about the two tenets of anti-aging, of age management, is decreasing visceral adipose tissue, decreasing fat, and increasing lean muscle mass. And one of the most important muscle, it's doing lower extremity, your legs, your glutes, And where we really bonded is we started talking about GLP-1 medications. And it was amazing to me how you understood those medications, and we did this. So we're not going to go on GLP-1 yet, but tell me, who's the typical person that you work with?
I would love to say there is a typical person. I think that's why I love what I do. Mm-hmm. There's no role. So people think, is it athletes? Or for the last 15 years, I've worked with professional athletes almost exclusively. But since moving to Dubai, it could be an executive, it could be a mother who doesn't work, or it could be anyone. But it's always someone who is looking for another level. I'm doing X and I want Y.
Amazing.
I want more than what I'm achieving at the moment. And it's so varied, the things that you have people ask about. I want to sleep better. But why do you want to sleep better? I want to sleep better because I know that's going to improve all of these other facets of my life.
And that's amazing that you say that, because I always say that if, I call them patients, you may call them clients, we want the individual to do first a self-inquiry, right? I cite Bob Marley a lot, Bob Marley, right? The reggae guy.
Yeah.
So in his song Exodus, he says, open your eyes and look within. Are you satisfied with the life you're living? So I invite all of my patients, before you come to me, ask yourself, how are you living? Do you need to improve something? And usually the pillars of health, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and mindset. So I ask everybody, before you even come to me, or if you're there, I'll ask you, what do you want to improve? And I love that you're saying that people who come to you, it's because they're at point A, they would like to get to point B. And they are coming for an expert to get them there.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, because this, this sort of label of high performance coach, it's not someone walking in thinking, tell me what I need to do. They've already decided, I want to get this outcome. I just don't know the path there. And so our whole principle is, well, we will show you your path to precision health to get you on the way to what your goal is. So that's really critical, is you might know what the outcome you want is, and there might be heaps of ways to get there, but it's having someone show you how to do it. And that's what I love doing.
Amazing.
And then making sure that someone follows through and does all the steps and they're accountable, etc.
Yes. Do you also work with the average individual who's coming in out of shape and is like, I need to, right?
100%. Yeah. They're in Dubai in particular, I'm seeing far more of those. As I said, I was exclusively athletes in the past, which is great because they've got all the resources, you've got the genetics, but it's taking those same principles and then applying them to someone who doesn't have the best genes, who doesn't have the training background, who might be intimidated by the gym, or, you know, has a mindset of, I've failed so many times in the past. So how do you get them to break through with that? So I actually really enjoy those, because you can see complete transformations in someone's life far quicker than someone who wants to get a sub 10-second 100 for the first time.
Man.
You could spend 2 years with someone and get 0.1 seconds off, whereas you spend 2 weeks with someone who's out of shape and I feel completely different.
So I think that's really important to let my audience know about this, because sometimes they hear high performance and they're like, oh no, that's not for me. I don't even go to the gym yet. Anybody can achieve high performance. And, you know, that's why I call my motto's best life, but it's your best life. Your best life doesn't mean that you need to achieve that sub 10 seconds, 100-meter dash. Your best life could be like, I just want to be able to pick up my grandkids. Your best life may be like, I just want to be able to walk around the block. For now, that's what you can achieve. And I love that you say that you're a high performance coach, but from the average individual all the way up to the top athlete.
Yeah, because your example there is spot on. Being able to pick up your kids. All right. There are clients I've had who, I used to be able to play with my kids. I can't do it anymore. And it's depressing for them. Well, let's address that. We can break down what are the skills, attributes required in order to do that and work on it. And you see that happiness come back. You see someone living their best life when they achieve it. And I don't know if you found this in practice as well. When someone ticks that goal off, guaranteed they'll come up with something else.
Of course.
And then, well, hang on, I've done that and I've achieved that one. What's to stop me?
What's next?
And now they start looking further ahead. And before you know it, you've got people who would never have thought they could. I use running as an example, but who would never have thought they could run 1 kilometer. And they're doing a 5-kilometer run for charity. And then before you know it, they're hooked and they're in the gym and they're...
So that's a really good segue to talk about GLP-1 medications, because where we bonded was exactly over this. And, I've had my weight loss clinic in Miami now for 20 years, and I've been using GLP-1 medications for 20 years. Actually, most people don't even know that GLP-1 medications were first FDA approved in 2005. It was actually for diabetes. The first FDA approval of GLP-1 was in 2014. That was liraglutide. It wasn't that great. But 2017, semaglutide came out. I started using it then. Then 2022, tirzepatide, that's all I use, because I've realized that it really transformed the psychology of the patient. So I'm the guy in Miami that they send all the non-compliant patients to. And to your point exactly, the patient will come to me. They're like, Doc, I've been up and down, yo-yo dieting. I gained 20 pounds. I lose 20 pounds. I regain it. I'm tired of this. I just internalized that I cannot lose weight. I'm just a fatso, right? To use that word. And then they come in. I put them on a GLP-1. Food noise goes away. They lose the first 10 pounds. All of a sudden, they get motivated. Their psychology changes. And what you just said, they're like, I was able to walk around the block. What else can I do? What else can I do? So we talked about this before. Usually people will come to us, especially if they have to lose a lot of weight, they're in a downward spiral. They can't control their eating. They're not exercising. They have body pains. They're going down. You start them going, they climb, they get that push, and you turn into an upward spiral. To me, and that was our discussion, that's the beauty and magic of GLP-1. Tell me your experience with this.
I couldn't agree more. And in particular, we sort of spoke about it's so easy to go down the slide. So a spiral that goes down is like a slide, but it takes effort to climb up the ladder to get back up.
And say that again, because I want people to visualize this.
Yeah, so I always think of a kid's slide at a playground. And especially the sort of the ones that spiral down. Well, it's really easy to slide down. So as you mentioned, maybe there was an injury or there was a psychological damage and they gained some weight, and then it makes it harder to exercise. And there is a whole range of circumstances.
Or the sugar addiction. They start eating bad foods. You know what I see a lot in Miami, because it's almost the cruise capital of the world. People go on a cruise for a week, they come back. All they want to do is eat sugar. They forgot all their good habits. So they were doing pretty well, but a week of bad vacation, a week of stress at work, they start eating bad. And I love that visual, that slide, that children's slide, you're just going uncontrollably down.
Yeah, and it gets quicker as you go.
Quicker as you go down.
But when you hit the bottom, right, Rock, it's really hard to get your first step onto the ladder. And I think what you just said about GLP-1s just before, it's giving you a boost. It doesn't do the work for you, but it gives you the boost to get onto the ladder and maybe your first 2 steps. And once you've got momentum with anything, like life is about momentum. Sport is about momentum. It's big swings and shifts, and we see it in games all the time. And I think it's no different when it comes to someone who's really struggling with whether it's addiction or whether it's, just motivation itself. Momentum helps change that. So to use a GLP-1, I'm a big proponent of it. In the right person, in the right circumstances.
Of course.
I've seen it work over and over and over again. And I think you didn't ask this specifically, but there is some stigma still in the society about cheating or somehow. And I always come back to this idea of, well, this isn't sport. This isn't a tested, regulated WADA activity. This is life. And so why would I say to someone, well, you shouldn't use something that is going to help you not only control food chatter, but control the need for sugar, control addiction, improve psychology, and get that initial weight loss to help build momentum.
Climb.
It seems crazy to me that we would judge someone for using that, but you would have experienced this over and over again. I'm sure people who would use it and then say, I don't want to tell anyone.
We're going to take a deep dive on this, but I want to go back into something you said, the momentum. Everything in human nature is momentum. And I like to say, I like to use those 3 words: momentum, resilience, and ambition. So when the patient gets the momentum, they're like, oh, okay, I'm starting to climb. I'm feeling better. I'm doing good. And I shows them how resilient they are. I'm like, look, you were going down that slide. Look at you. You lost 5 pounds. Great job. You lost 15. Come on, let's go. And then I give them ambition. Aim high. We're not stopping at the 20. Let's get you to your goal weight. Let's get you to be able to lift those weights. Do this half marathon or whatever it is the goal. But I tell them, aim high. Because really, and what I love with you is that as a high performance coach, usually the ones that I see they don't want to see GLP-1 because they say it's cheating. But if you get that patient into that right mindset and get that first momentum, we should celebrate those medications.
100%.
Yeah,
I always use that analogy of, go back 100 years, 200 years. If someone was really sick and had an infection, and we said, okay, well, using penicillin, penicillin, that's cheating. We don't look at it like that. We'd happily say, why would you not do it? So, or it's like you've got a Ferrari outside, or you can use the horse and cart. Which one are you going to take? Right? Miami, everyone's in a Ferrari.
Not me, man.
And
not
Dubai. So it's like we've got this technology. We know what it's useful for.
Yeah.
Why should we shame people for using it?
Yeah. So it's interesting. And everybody listening to me, they know I'm writing a book on GLP-1. And it's coming out soon. I've been saying that, but it's coming out. And in my book, I talk about this, that GLP-1 medications are the penicillin of our era. Because in the 1940s, what used to kill us was infectious diseases. We needed to invent antibiotics. And it was a medical breakthrough. What's killing us now? It's metabolic disease, it's obesity, it's cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia. GLP-1 medications have a positive impact on all of those because they address insulin resistance and inflammation.
And we know that all-cause mortality goes down at lower body weights.
Yeah.
And that, scarily enough, that includes people who are 130 kilos of pure muscle. We know you don't live as long. big mammals don't live as long as smaller mammals.
It's
That's
simple.
the reality.
So, let me do something. Let's kind of start, because although I talk a lot about GLP-1 on my podcast, let me go back and review what GLP-1 medications are. So it stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. It is what we call an incretin hormone, meaning that it's secreted in the gut, and it really gets released after you have a oral meal, oral glucose, and it increases your own insulin production, slows down your digestion so that you can have the full sensation, that satiety feeling. And scientists had been working on this since the 1980s. And in 2005, they were able to really get the first pharmaceutical product. So GLP-1 medications were always known as diabetes medications. With the Ozempic of the world, it became more of a weight loss. And then now I see them as anti-inflammatory, age management, and psychoactive medication that help your willpower. If we were to switch it, that it's no longer a weight loss medication, I think we can get rid of a lot of the stigma and the shame that's associated with them.
100%. It's the labeling.
The labeling.
As soon as you say it's for weight loss, there's something in our society, and I've never quite understood this, that somehow it's taking an easier way out. And yet we also recognize that obesity can lead to all sorts of health complications. So why are we, on the one hand, saying people need to reduce obesity in order to increase health, but then when there's an option for it, you're cheating if you take that. It doesn't really line.
Well, I think I understand it because I used to be on that side. I've been lucky. I've never had a weight issue. So it's hard sometimes for me to empathize with patients. I have family members who have problems with overweight. So it's hard to empathize when you've never been in those shoes. But I've had my weight loss clinic for 20 years. And really, when you look at the way society, and a lot of us, unfortunately, when you see a patient to want to lose weight, tell them just eat less and exercise, right? And it's a willpower issue. And then there's a bias against obesity. So society thinks that this executive or this high performance at work person who cannot lose weight is weak. It's a character flaw. It's weakness. So they're being judged.
Yeah.
And what we realize, actually, Oprah Winfrey talked about this. She dealt with obesity her whole life. And she said, how come I was able to take a shot and all of a sudden I don't want to eat the foods that I've been addicted to? She said it's not a question of willpower. It was a question of hormone imbalance. So GLP-1 is a hormone that now when we replace it, we see that all of a sudden people have willpower. People are able to not do the negative behaviors that they used to, that me and you have been telling them for years. So that's when I realized the real root cause of obesity, it's that brain circuitry that makes people stay addicted to sugar, to ultra-processed foods, and can't stop eating. That's the real root cause. And when you look at GLP-1 medications, they treat the food addiction. So that's why they can do, besides everything else that they're doing. So this is why most people who say, you're taking a GLP-1, just eat less and exercise. Why do you need that? We talked about this. Imagine we treated heroin addicts like this, right?
Just quit.
Just quit.
Just do it.
What can't you do there?
Yeah, just say no to drugs.
I'll never forget that in the late 90s, there was a Time magazine article of how addictive sugar is. And it was a rat that they gave him the choice to either have cocaine or sugar. Yes. Kept going for the sugar way more than the cocaine. Because it really, the reward pathways of the brain get lit up with dopamine way more than sugar than with cocaine. Yeah. So, but there's a negative connotation when I say to a patient, it's food addiction. No, I'm not addicted. I can do a weekend and I don't have any sugar. I'm like, yeah, but what about a month? What about 6 months? Can you consistently stay away from this? Yeah. And that's the issue. People can stay away for a little bit, but the addiction brings them back.
You raised something earlier, and I didn't know they had been researching GLP-1s for so long. Did not know that. One of the things, and I don't know if you know this or not, but you said that it's released in the gut. Have they looked at, do people release different amounts? So is there a gene or is there something between people where I've also never had to deal with obesity or anything near it. I'm naturally just supermodel gene. Not in the looks. Really? Well, not in the looks, but I just never put on body fat. Yes. And so I wonder, do I just have a natural ability to produce more of this? Yeah. And so Have they looked at whether or not there is a gene associated
Yeah.
with that? Because I almost have in my head now, if they could identify a gene and that showed it, all of a sudden we would say, oh, you've got that gene, I understand.
Yeah.
But because we...
Great question, man. You're so damn smart. So I took a deep dive on this because the question is obesity a genetic disease, right?
Or a component
Or
of
a component.
Yeah.
But there is actually some genetic disease where you have one gene mutation and it causes obesity. Turner syndrome, and there's a few syndromes like this, extremely rare, where you have one gene mutation and all of the people who have this will have severe obesity.
Yeah.
Extremely rare. That's less than 1 or 2%, or less than 5% of obesity, maybe less than this. But really what we're seeing, it's an epigenetic change. Epigenetic means it's above the genes,
Yep.
and it is very modified by our environment. So yes, you may have the gene to be obese, but if you're never exposed to sugar or bad foods, you will never develop this.
Yep.
The problem in our society is that the food is bad, it's crappy, it's toxic, and it's in overabundance.
Yeah.
You know, we were hunters and gatherers. We were never meant to just stay somewhere, eat 3 meals and 2 snacks every day, right? We were fasting naturally.
And every corner you turn, it's right there
It's
for you.
right there. The marketing for kids.
It's pushed on you.
And let me tell you what's even scarier, because I think we talked about this. I'm doing a deep dives also on the effect of plastics and microplastics. So right now, it's shown that 100% of humans and animals that they test have microplastics in them. And microplastics specifically, there's someone like BPA, phthalates, they do something to our metabolism that it increases the size of your fat cells, and it changes your metabolism to gain more fat, more fatty liver, and changes that. And it's an epigenetic change, and listen to this, that can get passed on to the 3rd generation. So they've seen that, they've done that in rats, that if they're exposed to plastics, the 2nd generation, which is called F1,
Yep.
has more tendency towards obesity, and it passes on to even the next one. So now we're looking at, no wonder we're seeing so much obesity
Yeah.
in children. In every population, we are looking at the incidence of obesity and diabetes in the Arab world, in UAE and in Saudi Arabia. It's almost number 1 globally. They didn't used to be like this.
Yeah.
So they don't have the genes for it, but because now they're exposed to all this crappy food, all this sugar, all of a sudden you see all of those populations are developing obesity. So obesity used to be a USA problem. We've exported all of those bad habits all over the world. The world has caught on that sugar tastes good and it's addictive. And to me, that's one of the worst things that's happening on our planet right now.
And it's interesting you go back to that microplastic as well. Like, wouldn't it be so nice if something that we consumed actually built more muscle and got us
Built
left?
more muscle.
What if,
That's
consuming
becoming
microplastics just for once, we got a win
just-
out of something that was happening from
Yeah.
all of our development as a
Yeah.
society?
You know, I love progress. You know, we're looking at our life now compared to how it was before. Even plastic. Plastic has made our life so much
Yeah.
easier. You know, there's this company, I think it's DuPont Industry, after World War II, they turned all their machinery into producing plastics. And they're like better living through chemistry. And that's true. They made Tupperware in plastic. They wrap everything. Everything is nice and neat.
All the surgical instruments are stainless
It's
steel,
all
but
plastic.
what are they all wrapped into? Keep
All in plastic.
It's plastic.
So we can't avoid it. So, and I have a passion about this because I'm going to plug a little bit the next project that I'm working on. I want to make the link between microplastics and the chronic disease that we're seeing in our society, including obesity, because of the epigenetic changes that we're seeing. Most of the documentaries or movies that you see about plastic pollution, they're concerned about the animals,
Yeah.
the turtles, the birds, the whales. What about us?
Yeah.
What is plastics doing to us? So there's an amazing book called Countdown, and it's by I interviewed that epidemiologist from UCLA or UC San Francisco, and she did a study that showed that when a woman is pregnant, the higher the level of plastic, the higher the chance of what is called testicular dysgenesis syndrome. The baby has more chances of having testicular cancer, undescended testes, low testosterone, and decreased sperm count because the mother was exposed to plastic. No fault of the baby.
And so then if you run that generation after generation, fertility rates are going to
Fertility.
drop.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at, so the countdown, I'm assuming, is the moral of the story is the end of the species. If it continues to go.
So over the past 40 years, sperm count has dropped 52%.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. So about 60 years ago, we were producing about 2 million pounds of plastic. The rates of chronic disease was about less than 10%, including obesity. 2024, we're producing 430 million pounds of plastics. Those numbers, you can't even envision what that means. Rate of chronic disease is up to 70%. There's a correlation that we cannot ignore. So I say all this not to scare people. I say all this to say that when me and you see somebody who's coming with addiction to food, obesity, trying to lose weight, and they can't do it, what I tell them, I'm like, I can't tell you why you can't commit to a good diet and exercise. You did, I did, but why can't this person? I said, there's something in your epigenome. We don't know why. All I can tell you, now I have a tool that can get you away from that food noise, that quiet sugar addiction, and then get you onto that.
We call it food chatter.
Yes.
Food, yeah.
Did you hear that? Chatter. Yeah, the chatter. Food chatter. In America, we call it food noise.
Yeah.
But
it's
I love
constant, like, oh, where's a snack? Where's this? In every opportunity, this chatter going on in the background.
And again, to go back to your point, before GLP-1, we knew there was food chatter, but there was no way to shut it down. So we just thought people could not shut it down, so they're weak.
Yeah.
They have a character flaw. They're not strong enough. Come on. Just white knuckles. You can do it. Willpower. And now we realize a hormone can give you that willpower. So is willpower, do we have free will? Right? Free will is hormonally influenced.
Driven. Yeah.
Completely. So, let me do a little plug also now on testosterone therapy. I started testosterone at 49. That's when I felt like, wow, my brain's not working the same way. My vitality, my physical abilities are not the same. And I looked at my numbers. I had low T. I'd been doing low testosterone replacement for years for my patients. When I went on testosterone, my life changed. It's like the light got turned on. So I realized also that because I'm always driven, I always type A personality, wanting to do more, happy.
Yep.
When I had low T, all I wanted to do is finish my work, go home, don't do much. I became more irritable. I became less social. So I realized again in me that my character is influenced by hormones. Testosterone, GLP-1 for women, estrogen, progesterone. So I like to talk about the biology of greatness, the biology of resilience, the biology of best life. It's not just mindset. Biology influences all this. GLP-1 is showing us this. So again, to go to your point, why should we refuse to use these tools for people who really need it?
Yeah, I mean, I like that, the biology of greatness.
Yeah,
right?
man.
That's a really good way to look at it. I like that. I'm going to
Yeah.
steal that and use that.
Yeah, because think about this, right? It's and I'm sure you see those patients. I have CEOs of companies. I have ex-military that used to be, wow, like men's men, commanders. And then something happened. And then all of a sudden you see them. Actually, mild traumatic brain injury can cause a lot of low testosterone or hormonal imbalance. And you see the person change their character. So character is not set in stone. It is hormonally influenced. So if somebody's struggling with weight issues, with motivation, with self-esteem, check your labs. Check your hormones. You're talking about driving the Ferrari. It's like you drive a Ferrari and then it starts sputtering and then you don't check the engine. You don't check the oil.
You spot on. So I always tell people, anyone who'll listen to me, are you at least getting your bloods done once a year?
Yeah.
And if they, I'll get around to it. Well, you drive a car, and everyone drives a car over here. When was the last time you had it serviced? And they'll say, 6 months ago. So you didn't just look at the outside of the car to determine whether it's in a good condition or not. You looked under the hood or you got someone else to look under the hood and check all the oil levels, brake fluid, all those measures. Why did you do that? Because you need to see what's going on.
Yeah.
We're a meat vehicle, right? Why wouldn't we look at
high performance vehicles?
Exactly. Draw bloods, have a look at what's going on under the hood, because just looking at the outside doesn't give us a real sort of measure of what our performance is like.
Completely.
And if we want to be high performing, and then I go back to your point of, hormones absolutely influence our greatness. Think of a type 1 diabetic, All right. We have no concerns about saying,
Yeah.
here's insulin
Yes.
for you,
Yes.
because without it, they're going to die.
Completely.
All right. So if we just
Yeah.
look on that same scale and say, well, andropause, the average
Yeah.
loss of 1% of testosterone every year on year, which
Yeah.
is insidious, because 1% change, you don't
Yeah.
notice. And the next year, 1%. Now,
Yeah.
over 10 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
that's a big difference.
It
Whereas
happens.
we've seen it with menopause,
Yeah.
because it's such a drop in estrogen over such a short period of time, but at least there's an endpoint. And so
Completely.
we've seen the influence and the role of hormonal change for women, but we haven't yet really recognized it for men.
Yeah.
And because it's lifelong, so you have this 1% drop,
Yeah.
1% drop. It's this slow sinking
Yeah.
under the ground,
Yeah.
What's the difference between a rut and a grave? It's just the depth, So
I love those Australians, man.
so you think about it, like you're just slowly sinking. Whereas if you
Completely.
get your bloods, you identify it
Yeah.
and you rectify
But I'm going to do a quick caveat on this, because people will hear this and they may go to their primary care doctor and they do their insurance-based yearly blood test. That is so superficial.
Yeah.
They'll be like, your cholesterol is a little high, your vitamin D. They don't check hormones. They don't check inflammatory biomarkers. Again, that's what I like with the functional medicine movement. You need to do functional medicine labs. Go deep. Go really find the right provider.
And that's exactly what we sort of
Yeah.
focus on is, we're looking at everything from thyroid values to liver function to kidney function to
Autoimmune,
full blood examination.
Yeah, I've seen your
testosterone,
panels.
estrogen.
Our panels
Yeah.
are very similar. And I want to plug this a little bit. So the medical clinic is called EverWell, and it's going to really transform the health of the Arab world. And what I love with it, which I want to bring to Miami, that they have a functional gym, beautiful gym with trainers. So you go upstairs to do your blood test, you see the doctor, you come downstairs to work out. Then they have an amazing restaurant.
Hungry wolves.
Like that you get Hungry Wolves, that you get amazing food. I had a salad with salmon. I was like, oh my God, I can live like this. So I need you guys in Miami, man.
All we need is apartments above, and then you never have
That's
to
it.
leave.
So we have kind of a concept like this in Miami, but definitely nothing close to this. So I definitely want you, because you're the muscle guy, because definitely one of the things I don't like with GLP-1 is the muscle loss. So the muscle loss is very important, because muscle is the organ of longevity. The more muscle you have, the better your insulin sensitivity, the lower your inflammation. So I want us to touch on that. And just for everybody listening, it's not that GLP-1s cause this massive weight of muscle. It's because they're so effective in losing weight that you will also lose some muscle. And studies show that it could be about 20 to 25% of total weight loss that can come from muscle mass. Some people may have a little more, but that's more or less where it is. So what I do with my patients from day one that they're going to start, I tell them, you need to eat enough protein. You need to do resistance training. Women tend to have a problem with this. When I ask them, do you exercise? Yes, my exercise is great. What do you do? I walk.
Cardio.
I walk for an hour. I walk for an hour and a half. Resistance training. So high performance coach now. Talk to me about muscle development and how important are muscles to our metabolism.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that the strength training is so important. And you mentioned that women will often, I exercise heaps, and it's walking or it's cardio, but it needs to be strain. The muscle responds to strain, and that's not doing 100 body weight squats or maybe jumping into a class where they're pulling bands apart. No, you have to physically be lifting something that essentially tests you within that 1 to 10 to 12 rep range. If you could get 20 reps of it, the chances are you're probably not really going to develop much strength. Maybe very early on, initially, but you'll quickly stall there. And so being able to put your body under targeted load and progressive resistance.
Amazing.
So what you can do today, in 6 months, you hope to be lifting significantly more because the body will only respond to whatever you put onto it. And I use this analogy all the time of, imagine you're hammering a nail into the wall and you tap, tap, tap the nail into the wall, and it only moves so far. At some point, you've got to hit the nail harder for it to go further.
Ooh, I like
and then
this.
if you only stay at that, you could be tapping for the rest of your life and it won't
like
go
this.
any further.
I like
So you've
this.
just got to learn to hit the nail harder progressively over time. But you don't want to use a sledgehammer
from
on the
beginning.
first session and have someone so sore that they never want to come back.
So that's something important that I want us to touch on, is meeting the individual wherever they're at. Because sometimes some of the patients I see, they're so out of shape that for them, the goal maybe the first 3 months is just walking. But we need to progress. Then I'm like, okay, maybe start doing calisthenics, body weight. Then we need to maybe do bends or light weights. But then we need to continue to progress. I like that analogy of the hammer on the nail. At some point, you need to hit it harder.
Yeah.
And then you need to really get your muscles going. I tend to struggle with this now that I'm 55 because body aches. Wait till you're 50, my friend. Body aches.
It's not too far off.
Sometimes I feel it, so I tend to not push myself, but you've inspired me. It's when you go to the gym, it's not about comfort. You need to be a little bit outside of your comfort zone, challenge the muscles enough for them to grow.
Yeah, and there's the difference between intensity and duration. So a lot of people think, I'm doing more than I ever was in the gym, but they might be doing more sets and more reps. So maybe they've been lifting 20 kilos and they were doing 10 reps, and now they're doing 20 reps, or they're doing huge number of exercises. That's not higher intensity.
Yeah.
Intensity is how close are you getting to that 1 RM? How are you straining under the load? The 1 RM, 1 repetition maximum.
1 repetition maximum. Remember, a lot of my people do not know about this repetition maximum. I tend to fall into this. Again, you're inspiring me, and I'm hoping everybody listening, when you go to the gym, you need to almost go to failure when you're lifting weights, right? Don't just stay comfortable with the same weight all the time.
And it doesn't have to be failure all the time. And there's concepts around 1 rep in reserve, 2 reps. So let's say I get to a point I could probably do 1 or 2 more, but I'm just going to leave that in the tank. But it has to be strained.
Yeah, it has to be strained.
And you mentioned, hey, you get pains now that you didn't used to get. As we get older, the amount of work that we can do generally diminishes, but the intensity with which we can train doesn't have to diminish.
You're inspiring me, man. You're inspiring me. And one thing I've been doing more as I'm getting older, a lot more flexibility training, which especially guys, we suck at this, right? So I know you do flexibility also, and I want us to touch on that, but I want to finish the muscle conversation because one of the most important predictors of mortality is grip strength. It's how strong you are. It's your muscle mass. So yes, so we want to, GLP-1 saves lives, decrease body fat, but let's make sure that we push our patients to lift weights, to strain their muscle, develop more grip strength, develop more muscle mass.
And it doesn't have to be super specific. So what exact program does it? Doesn't matter. So the grip strength thing is interesting because correlation and causation are not the same thing. The rooster makes a noise every time in the morning. Doesn't mean that it makes the sun come up. And so the grip strength is by association. So generally, if you're deadlifting, if you're bench pressing, if you're doing chin-ups, you are going to develop a better grip strength. And it's the exercise itself that means it's associated with
completely. But it's such an easy way to measure it. I'm actually going to get a dynamometer at the office because sometimes a patient, how do you measure strength? Right? So an easy way, once you do that and the patient sees that they'll be like, oh my God, okay, I need to do some more.
I'm in the lowest 25 percentile.
So that's powerful. Again, what we're trying to do is motivate patients. Because I always think, what can I do to make that switch in the patient's mind? Because being out of shape or being overweight, we know now it's a mindset, but the mindset is controlled by hormones. So once we get them better with the hormones, and whatever hormones, because some patients, it's not GLP-1.
Yes.
It's a thyroid. How many patients have we seen with hypothyroidism, a slow thyroid, who've gained 50 pounds in a year?
Yep.
They didn't need GLP-1. They need their thyroid medication to be replaced. So, talking about this, imagine if I have a patient with diagnosed slow thyroid, that after 1 year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take you off your thyroid medication now. Imagine. That's what we're doing to GLP-1 patients. But thyroid is a really important hormone for metabolism, and especially this autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's that we see a lot of weight gain with. So yes, you need that. Actually, GLP-1 medication, let's go really quick, beyond weight loss. So what we're seeing with GLP-1 medications is that they decrease inflammation, they decrease autoimmune disease to a point that I've had patients with Hashimoto's that their antibodies went down to normal. It decreases autoimmunity and inflammation. And there's anecdotal reports written in the literature. Psoriatic arthritis, which is also an autoimmune condition, we see the blood levels of the antibodies go down. It gets better. A lot of patients with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, GLP-1 helps. Fibromyalgia. My women were starting to have a lot of the trigger points because it decreases inflammation.
Do you think that, and obviously this would be hypothesis, do you think that's the direct action of the drug, or do you think it's the action of
The weight
reduce?
loss.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
which is it, the chicken or the egg?
Great question. So they did a study. It was called the SELECT trial. And that's the study that cemented how important GLP-1 medication was. It was about 17,000 patients that they randomized to either Wegovy, semaglutide at the highest dose, or placebo. And they saw that those patients on semaglutide had a 20% decreased risk of dying of a heart attack, of any kind of major adverse cardiovascular events. Also did weight loss, all of this. But what was important in that study is that the cardiovascular benefits happened before significant weight loss. So within 3 to 4 months of the patients taking this, they're like, wow, their cholesterol, their HSCRP, their inflammatory markers are lower. So they didn't lose that 60 pounds yet, but their risk of heart disease went down. Really good question. Is it all the benefits of GLP-1 only related to the weight loss, or do they do something else? Now we have the answer. They decrease inflammation. So if we call GLP-1 anti-inflammatory shots, that's when we see that now they have anti-aging, I don't like to say anti-aging, age management properties, longevity properties. So now it shifts the narrative on those medications completely.
Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating.
Right?
So I wasn't sure on that. And as you said, if you're lowering high sensitivity C-reactive protein, like there's your answer right there.
Yeah. Because when I talk about GLP-1, I sound like a used car salesman. One molecule can do all of this. Decrease risk of heart disease, decrease fatty liver, decrease progression of kidney disease, decrease incidence of Alzheimer's, dementia, and neurodegenerative disease, decrease arthritis, FDA approved for the treatment of sleep apnea, decrease the incidence of 10 out of 13 obesity-related cancers. One molecule. You're like, no, this is too good to be true. But you go back to cellular biology, it decreases inflammation.
Yeah.
It actually also helps with mitochondria. It decreases oxidative stress. So all those things that you hear we talk about in functional medicine, GLP-1 affects all of those. How crazy is this?
Dude, we go back to that, it's the penicillin of the modern era.
Completely.
Right? Like, it does all of these things. It's essentially, we don't question that water is the most important molecule of life.
Yeah.
Okay, without water, Earth doesn't exist. We don't have,
in our
we
era,
can get a lot of things out of one. It's not too good to be true.
Yeah. And I like to say something. I have a love-hate relationship with GLP-1s. I love that they're so effective. I love that they give transformative results to my patients. I hate that we have to use them. I wish I could tell all my patients, just eat less and exercise. All of a sudden they lose the weight. That old paradigm needs to shift. Yes, maybe 20% of patients can do this. But 70%, more than 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese. They estimated that 93% of Americans have some kind of cardio-kidney metabolic disease. So less than 7% are metabolically healthy. So yes, I wish we didn't have to use it, but we live in a toxic world. We live in a world where microplastics are everywhere, pesticides are everywhere, the PFAS, everything. We're swimming in a sea of toxins. And we're addicted, we're overstimulated. So if we can get something to give us a head up, to give us that push on that climb, like you say, I love the way you said it, why not use it? And what I'm excited about functional medicine is it's only the beginning. It's only 20 years. It's not a long time. They're already thinking about making a GLP-1 that you take one injection every 3 months. They're thinking about a pill. And when you look at the progression of GLP-1s, tirzepatide, Mounjaro, it's so much better than anything that came before it. You compare tirzepatide to semaglutide, they're two different molecules because tirzepatide has GLP-1 plus that other molecule, GIP. So you have less side effects, better results. When you do head-to-head between those two, with semaglutide, patients lose about 15% of their body weight. With tirzepatide, 20 to 22%. So progress, I always say, technology got us into this mess. Technology will help us get out of it.
Yeah. And then you look at some of the data that's coming out around retatrutide.
Yes.
Or retruitide, some people call it. Everyone changes it.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, tirzepatide is so great that I haven't used retatrutide on my patients yet. This is a triple agonist, and people get excited about triple because it's 3 receptors. But it's glucagon. We don't know what the effects are. I'm going to wait a few years and see clinical data before I use it. I have data on semaglutide. I have data on tirzepatide. Tirzepatide is what I use almost exclusively.
Yeah.
So I'll keep using tirzepatide. And another caveat, I have some patients who can't tolerate any GLP-1s. I have a patient the other day, young patient, needed to lose some weight, could not lose whatever she's doing, put her on tirzepatide, start at the low dose, 2.5 milligram, lost 15 pounds, but still nauseous, although she's eating really well. I had to tell her she had to come off, right? At some point, it's not everybody gets result. I have another patient who was 82 years old, started on this, even at the low dose of 2.5 milligram, had a lot of nausea. You know what I do? I microdose, give them 1 milligram a week, 1.5 milligram a week. So the concept of microdosing GLP-1, where you don't even need maybe for the appetite or the weight loss, but you get the low inflammation, the food chatter.
Yeah. And do you still keep it as a weekly dosage if you're microdosing? So you're going to 1 milligram, 1.25 milligrams. Do you still keep it as a weekly, or do you sort of say, on the 5th day or something?
Very personalized. Yeah. Very personalized. So the half-life of the medication is 7 days. After 7 days, you lose 50% of it. So the microdose, if 1.5 milligram a week works for the patient, great. I tend to see those low dose, we do twice a week.
Yep.
Or some patients after 5 days, that's going to be like, okay, instead of waiting 7 days, dose every 5 days. Now, when I start when patients get to their goal weight, I don't just stop it. I like to taper it off.
Yep.
I'll have them take it every 2 weeks, then maybe every 3 weeks. I have some patients who will microdose or take a dose every 3 to 4 weeks. That's enough to keep their metabolism. And like this, you tend to avoid some of the side effects.
Yep. And we keep talking about it's natural to talk about the appetite control, but there's also the anti-inflammatory component. So you're getting that little aspect as well.
Yeah. Oh, listen, man, we could be here talking for hours. So I think we're going to be short of time. So let's kind of recap that conversation. So I'll do a short fire, something we talked about. You say something. We'll say a few sentences. We're going to say like this. So I'm going to start. GLP-1s are the penicillin of our era. What's a sentence you got?
I would say muscle mass is still key to longevity.
Beautiful, beautiful. The biology of greatness. If you're struggling with being the best version of yourself, check your engine, check your labs.
Very good. I like that. I like that. As a society, we need to move past looking at GLP-1s or all hormonal medications as a cheat and instead start looking at it as these people are looking to be high performers.
Celebrate the success while we're waiting for innovation to make them better and better. And I think that's going to be the last one. What I tell all my patients, the whole time that you're on the journey to become better, to lose weight, or to go from point A to point B, always love yourself. Wherever you are, at your highest weight, at your worst, know that you're enough, you're amazing, you love yourself now. You don't love yourself when you get to point B. And that's a tough thing to know, right? Because a lot of people are like, when I get to point B, I'll be better.
Yeah.
I'm like, be good now. When you get to point B, it's still good. You just perform better. Have self-love no matter what. Know that you are enough, because we put enough judgment and enough shame into patients struggling with obesity, with weight gain, with inflammation, that when I tell patients that, I get a lot of people crying in my office. Because I'm like, love yourself, you're amazing right here, right now, but we're all going to get you to point B.
That's unreal.
On this, Jackson, thank you so much for being here. All the way from Dubai with an Australian with an amazing accent. I know my Miami people are going to love this. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Till later, guys.